Hello guys, it's Wizardly Sundry here, and today we're going to be doing a Taric guide for you today, and we'll be talking a bit about how to play Taric and all that good stuff that you need to know when you're playing Taric in a bottom lane. If you guys pause the video, you can clearly see my runes and masteries and the ability order at the start of the video. This game I'll be showing you guys how to play Taric the way I play Taric, the awesome way, the most efficient way you can play Taric, and I recommend you playing him like this. So today I'm going to be playing with an ADC, which is Draven. Now this is very important to know who you're duoing with, because in bot lane, because you can secure kills a lot more easy, and it's always good to know who you're supporting in the bot lane and see if they're going to go a Soraka and a Varus. That's a very good combo because they have a good mana, whatever, you know. So it's always good to know who you're duoing with in bot lane for the synergy and secure combos and such stuff like that. Because if you're playing for really passive and late game type of champ ADC, it's always good to go like a really passive champion that heals, and you just want it to be a really farm lane. You go Soraka, you could go Janna, someone with shields that can bring them into the late game period. And yeah, it's always good to have someone that can protect, and yeah, it's always good to have the right synergy in the bot lane. These items are the items I started with on Taric, and most people should start off on Taric because I reckon it's the best, and it's actually really got most tank supports that have the nice, that need HP because they get harassed a fair bit in lane. Now, what I start with is a Relic Shield because you can, if you get harassed in the first 5 minutes of your lane, you can get your HP back by hitting minions, last hitting them and executing them, which will give you and your ally some HP. So this is really good, and also the two cookies that I get in the bot lane is really good as well, because that means I will get mana and HP. Now that's really important mastery to get on nearly any support in bot lane, and yeah, I recommend getting the cookies. They're very, very good. And the trinket, I always get trinket because it is the best. You never get relic. You never get the red trinket, which they call, what do they call it again? They call it the clearing trinket. What do they call it? Anyway, you place it in the bush on the far right, and this is always very good because early jungle ganks can always happen in any ranked game or normal game. And yeah, if it depends who you're versing, of course. In jungle, if you're versing a Feral Flare Warwick, of course you might never see them in your laning phase. But if you're versing like a Mumu or someone like that that's going to be there at 6, then it's always great to have a ward in the top right bush. So what I try to do at the start of the game is I like to try and hide and get my ADC a lot of experience, I like to hide in the bushes around him, so that if he gets harassed, I can whack in a heal or a stun or whatever. I like to always phase check all the bushes around me when I'm starting the game. And this is a very important thing for most Taric supports. So the reason I'm starting with Flash and Exhaust as summoner spells is, first of all, I'm getting Flash so I can engage or disengage in fights, which means if I'm getting very low, which most people do in games, and they're really close to dying, I can just flash out, flash over the wall, and I can run away. Also, I can flash and E, or flash and ult, and I can do shit tons of damage and stun them for a couple of seconds. Now this is very good with the Dazzle, which is his E. So I also start with Exhaust because it's the best CC summoner spell, because it's best. I reckon it's the best spell for supports. Every support should have Exhaust because it's great against ADCs, and it reduces the damage output by the champ and the attack speed of the champ as well, and also the movement speed. So it's very good. You can use it on the ADC in team fights, the enemy ADC or the enemy APC. In other words, like a Nahari or whoever's mid lane, like in this game is Cat, you can chuck it on the enemy Yasuo, and that can reduce their damage. Or you can chuck it on Lucian, which I recommend doing in fights down bot lane. So because I'm playing Taric in this game, I like to play him aggressive or passive, meaning that if we get pushed or harassed, we can turn our lane into a farming lane. So if we're going to be playing it super hardcore, you know, running in, stunning, like I'm doing in this game, if we get super harassed and they start to even out the lane, they start pushing us. What I like to do is I start to max my Q. If you're getting harassed in lane, max your Q second. I recommend this because then you're gonna be able to get a lot more heals onto your ADC and you, and this will be a lot more of a sustained lane. So that's a good thing to always do. So the combos I do with Draven right here are all dependent on me and Draven and our skill level. Like, if Draven was not completely ballsy and I felt that he played kind of passive in his lane, he wanted to play passive, but I tried to make him play aggressive. Now this is the big thing, like when you're playing in solo queue, you'll find that people play a lot differently to you do, and to get the right synergy between you two, you need to play a couple of games. So that's what we hadn't done, but we kind of got a bit, worked out a bit of our playstyle later on in the game, and I found that Draven got a little bit more aggressive, and yeah, it worked a bit better with me. So this is the combos I did with Draven. I'll talk about my maxing and my abilities and why I max my abilities, different parts, and why some of them I max more. Like first of all I max my W, and the reason I max my W normally is because I like to get a lot more armor for me and my ADC, which means that we can take a lot more harass, AD harass from the ADC on their side. So we're not going to be harassed as much, and this is very important when you're playing Taric, because if you don't max W first, they can do a lot more damage to you, and this ruins nearly the whole point of playing Taric. Now, the reason how I play Taric and his combos is by clicking E, in other words Dazzle, to engage. I follow up with a W, which also, the W is also really good because once you burst it, it doesn't stop the armor bonus that you get from it between you and your ADC, but it reduces their armor, the enemy's armor, and this is very good because then I think it reduces their magic resist as well, and this is very good because Draven can land a couple of Q axes on him, and that's very powerful trade early on, and it does a lot of damage, and you know, we can eventually finish them off later on with if we can land a couple more combos like that. Okay, so the reason why I max Q second or E second, normally I max E, then the reason I max Q second is because we're getting harassed really hard. If I max E second, it's normally the one I normally max second always, because this reduces the cooldown, and it also increases the damage, and it also increases the duration of the stun, which is very important because then you can land a stun for longer in early parts of the game, and you can wait, and then you can get your guys to follow up on the stun, which is a lot more effective when you're trying to catch someone out, or when they're in the river and you've got a ward in their sight. Now that's always important, and yes, it's always important to trade like this, because yeah. So when you're getting ganked, it's always important to ping really hard at ganks coming in, and make sure you've always got a ward in that bush, because the jungler will be finding the chance to come in when your ward runs out, because the enemy ADC bot lane and support will be pinging to tell the junglers that the ward is gone and vanished. Also, they also come to clear. You also see the support running over there to clear the ward, and then they'll start pinging their jungler to come in. Then it's always important to have a couple of wards with you, definitely early on. And this is another reason why I try to rush a sight stone, so that I can get 4 wards just sitting there in my inventory. So if they clear one of them, I've got another one and another one. So also, it's another good thing to have a pink ward on you, because then you can chuck these in objective-based places like Dragon, Blue Buff, and Red Buff, depending on which part of the map you are on, and you want to be able to counter jungle the enemy jungler, or you just want to have a pink ward down, so that if a jungler comes along like Evelynn, you can see them, an invisible jungler like Evelynn, Rengar, or Kha'Zix, or even Shaco. This is very important because this will give you a lot more vision in the map, and you'll be able to see their jungler going off, which means that your jungler can then go and gank another lane, or your team can then start pushing another lane, which means that will be putting force on them, and that you will get a bit of a head bonus. And vision is always very important when you're playing support, and most people know this for a lot of reasons. The reason why the ult does so much damage, and it's always important that when you've got the ult available, you always want to get this straight up. Like as soon as you want to max R as fast as possible, And the reason because this is the ult does AoE damage plus an area effect plus gives your allies a buff of damage, which is I think it's like 40 or 50 damage. It might even be 25. I'm not sure, but it also increases their armor rating and their magic resist rating, which is really good. And yeah, so it's always good to have wards on you guys. So you always want to have ward positions are great, and every support should know the best warding positions, and most supports should be experienced at warding. And it's very important to go when you're going into ranked game. Never go straight into a support role unless you know how to ward properly. I'll leave a picture here so you guys can see the most important spots to ward on the map. And yeah, guys, have fun. I'm Lissandru, and I hope you guys enjoyed my quick Taric guide. This should be in depth enough, and you should be able to learn a couple of things that you don't know about Taric and why he's so awesome.